Hello and welcome to the History of Babylon 5. Today's episode, the Minbari. The Minbari are the oldest of the younger races and originate from the planet Minbar in Sector 120. Minbari are bipedal humanoids in appearance, with the distinctive bony, antler-like head ridges that grow from the temples, wrapping back around the nape of the neck and up to the crown. By and large, Minbaris are completely bald, possessing very little body hair beyond eyelashes, though in a slight oddity, some males have been known to be able to grow beards. This may be a simple genetic throwback or ethnic variation as on Earth. Certain groups are themselves less capable of facial hair growth. Minbari earlobes are small compared to those of human or Centauri, and are located at the base of the neck. Minbari physiology is extremely resilient and able to keep functioning even after suffering substantial blood loss, multiple amputations, or other injuries that would easily kill a human. This at least partially stems from a very robust metabolism, and with high levels of endurance that allow a Minbari to breathe in relatively low oxygen atmospheres, and typically go without food for as long as 2 weeks. However, their unique biochemistry means that they cannot metabolize alcohol without suffering a drastic psychochemical reaction. Those that consume even a small amount suffer from sudden and extreme psychotic impulses accompanied by violent homicidal rages. Minbari do not perspire the way humans do and instead secrete a kind of fluid while they sleep that serves a similar function. As a result, Minbari do not bathe to maintain personal hygiene, but instead regularly use a chemical that strips away the outer layers of their skin each day, as a symbol of being constantly reborn. The Minbari are one of the many races who have been altered by the Vorlons to produce telepaths, which, while not as powerful as their human counterparts, are nonetheless in typical Minbari fashion highly trained, extremely disciplined, and easily capable of working in harmonious groups. Culturally, psi ability is considered to be a gift and a calling, and by tradition, telepaths are freely trained, fed, clothed, and otherwise provided for, so that they are able to openly offer their services to those in need. Minbari are a relatively long-lived race, typically living over a century, with the record being somewhere around 120 years. 1001 years is deemed fantastic, unreachable age. Strangely enough, the combination of human and Minbari DNA appears to be conducive to increasing the lifespan of a given subject, well beyond that either race would normally expect. Dalin lived well over 140 years, as did Valen. It is unknown if this is a result of the genetic hybridization itself, a side effect of the transformation process, or merely a fluke or coincidence. The Minbari's distinctive head bones are actually two separate and distinct ridges. At birth, Minbari infants possess two very small, soft ridges that sprout from the temple and grow and close at the back of the skull, forming the appearance of a single structure. The ridges grow in stages, each stage advancing another few millimeters, and do not fully develop until the child is approximately 1 cycle old. By that time, the two soft ridges should join at the back of the head and harden into a firm exoskeletal structure. In its natural state, the bony structure is smooth, interrupted only with layered ridges in a pattern that resembles the growth rings of trees or antlers. Minbari, however, choose to style and sculpt the ridges into certain styles, a process achieved through laborious carving and ritualized binding. The practice of body modification is broadly similar to the ancient Chinese foot binding or the Mayan head shaping once practiced on Earth. But this is by no means crude or damaging. From a cultural standpoint, it is akin to human and Centauri practices of cutting and styling hair and nails, or the Narn practice of buffing their spots. The binding itself is done with strong molds, applied to the bone at a key development phase, and kept under continuous pressure, though care must be taken to keep pressure away from the brain and neck. By tradition, the molding process takes place during adolescence. In the development period, when the bones undergo rapid growth, the final binding ritual is considered something akin to coming of age ritual that marks a passage into adulthood. Once the bone is set, it will eventually hold its basic shape for the rest of its life, although adult Minbari will continue to carve and keep it looking neat and symmetrical. Within the ridge structure itself is a veiny layer of very raw and tender flesh, akin to the quick under fingernails. Carving too deeply or carelessly will cause a substantial amount of discomfort and bleeding, which is why carving is kept to the outer layers only. Members of the warrior caste almost exclusively favor a rough, jagged look that they like to think makes them appear ominous. Some males of other castes also adopt this more rough-hewn style, but not for the same desired effect. Non-warrior females, especially those of the religious caste, tend to favor smoother, much more rounded and elegant styles. Female warriors, on the other hand, tend to adopt the same style as male warriors. The Minbari are a deeply spiritual, highly ritualistic, and disciplined people. They seek conformity and enlightenment above all. Honor is everything, and they generally do not lie, except to save another or help another save face. From birth to adulthood, they are taught to be selfless and learn the importance of service to all aspects of life. Working for generations, they create a legacy for themselves and are ready to sacrifice their lives, their blood, or their honor for others. Since faith and discipline are their way, Minbari are less likely to act on their passions. They have a ritual for everything and usually listen carefully to the words of wisdom. This is unlike Earth culture, which is much more free-spirited and impassioned, where the people default on their passions and sometimes forget the lessons of the past. Their sacred law forbids the killing of Minbari by Minbari, a rule which has held since the time of Valen. Before Valen, it was common for castes and clans to war among each other. The sacred law was briefly abandoned during the Minbari Civil War of 2261. Minbari society is segregated into a caste system. The three castes are the worker caste, the warrior caste, and the religious caste. Each Minbari is born into a particular caste, but may join another if they feel strongly that their calling lies there. The castes are divided into clans, which have their own leaders and family houses. Since the time of Valen, three castes lived in peace with one another, although at times there had been friction, particularly between the religious and the warrior castes. The workers, although given equal representation in the government, were often caught between these rivals and forgotten, until Delenn reorganized the Grey Council in favor of them. Minbari didn't produce and consume news and information in broad terms. Rather, they understood and were told what they needed to know, from those higher up in society, or from one another. Partly this was due to respecting the privacy of the affected individuals. Minbari religious beliefs hold that the universe is both alive and conscious, and that it manifests itself in all forms of sentient life, giving all individuals a piece of itself. Such philosophy is a form of pantheism. There is also belief in a collective soul and collective reincarnation. Thus, each generation of Minbari are reborn into the next. While Minbari generally do not worship individual gods, they do have a representation of a higher being. Valen founded the Grey Council and is also thought of as divine by the Minbari. True seekers are also held in very high regard by the religious caste. When a Minbari introduces him or herself, they bow with their hands in the shape of a triangle. One hand is curled inside the other, while the thumbs point to each other, forming the apex of the triangle. Minbari fashion is usually an external expression of one's own caste. A warrior would be seen wearing elaborate black uniform with many buttons or badges, while the religious and worker caste outfits are much plainer, but varying in color depending on their purposes. Lying is absolutely forbidden, except to save face for another person. An accusation of lying is a deadly insult. Minbari consider sleeping in the horizontal to be tempting death, which is why Minbari beds are tilted at a 45-degree angle. That, while uncomfortable for other races, can be mastered with practice and proper meditation. The practice stems from a characteristic of Minbari physiology that had represented a real danger in the past. By the time of the Third Age, the risk was much less. Nonetheless, the tradition had become deeply entrenched. Among Minbari, the number 3 is considered sacred, and it appears throughout their culture. Minbari count in base 11. Using their 10 fingers and a head. Minbari humor is primarily based on puns and on failure to achieve enlightenment. The Minbari have 3 basic languages, one for each caste. Every Minbari understands the languages of the other castes. However, it is considered a taboo if the warriors or the religious castes speak the language of the workers. In addition to these 3 basic languages, Minbari have 97 dialects and subtongues, The Minbari have beliefs opposed to that of the Soul Hunters. The Soul Hunters believe that because of the Minbari's hesitant to let their souls be preserved, that they are letting their souls die needlessly. Because of the repercussions of the Earth-Minbari War, some humans have some hostility towards the Minbari. Other races sometimes perceive the Minbari as humorless and unpassionate, but this is not true. There is a common saying that while the Minbari does not lie, they do not tell the whole truth either. Thank you for watching the Minbari. Special thanks to the Babylon Project for all information you heard today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you can. If you have, thank you very much. And have a great day. Bye-bye.